Alright guys, so for number 2 on the chapter 3 review package, so let's get started. It's very similar question to number 1. So you have two persons now, two people over here, Greg and also Catherine, each one with their own production possibility. So for the first person, for Greg, we can produce either, it's hard to see, it's cake and ice cream, and then for Catherine it's also cake and ice cream. And then question A is asking, what's Greg's opportunity cost of producing ice cream? Explain your answer. And then now if you look at part A, B, C, D, it's all asking for your opportunity cost. Now remember in class that when we're looking for the comparative advantage, we always look for the 4 prices. Those 4 prices, they are the opportunity cost for you. So once you know the 4 prices, that's your your answer to part A, B, C, and D. So let's do the 4 prices now. So let's start with price of ice cream for Greg, price of cake for Greg also, and then next it's going to be price of ice cream for Catherine, and then price of cake for Catherine. Now again, since both of this production possibility curve are straight line, we can use the two endpoint for each person to find our opportunity cost. So first, let's do Greg. For Greg, when you're looking for the price of ice cream in Greg, always whatever the good you're looking for, so looking for price of ice cream, you're going to put the maximum number of ice cream on the bottom of the fraction. So for Greg, he can produce a maximum 8 ice cream. So this goes on bottom, so 8 ice cream over here. And then what goes on top is number of the cake he can produce. So Greg can produce a maximum 4 cakes. So 4 cakes. So if you simplify this, just become 1 over 2. 1 over 2 cake. So a maximum, or the opportunity cost for Greg, for every ice cream will be half cake. And then once you find out the price of the opportunity cost for ice cream for Greg, the opportunity cost for cake for Greg is just the reciprocal. So take this number over here, and take this number, flip over, that's the answer over here. So there will be 2 ice cream. And then for Catherine, same calculation. So for Catherine, we're looking for the price of ice cream. So we're going to put the maximum number of ice cream on the bottom. That's 5 over here. So 5 ice cream. And then what goes on top is the maximum number of cake she can produce. So she can produce 2 cake. So 2 over 5. That's our answer. So 2 over 5 cake. And then for Catherine, for the price of cake, we're going to take this number over here, flip over, that's our answer for the cake. So 2 over 5, that becomes 5 over 2 ice cream. So this is the answer for part A, B, C, D. That's the opportunity cost for cake and ice cream for Greg, and also the opportunity cost for cake and ice cream for Catherine. And then next part for part E. Part E asking which if any good does Greg has in absolute advantage. Now it's asking for this absolute advantage. When you're dealing with absolute advantage, you're looking for whichever person or country can produce more of the good. So for Greg can produce 8 ice cream. Catherine can produce 5 ice cream. So Greg can produce more ice cream. Therefore, Greg has an absolute advantage in production for ice cream. So let's call it AA. So absolute advantage. And then for cake, Greg can produce 4 cake, and then Catherine can produce 2 cake. So Greg also have an absolute advantage in production for cake. So the answer for part E is that Greg has both absolute advantage. That's the answer. Okay. And then for F, which if any does Catherine has an absolute advantage producing? Now since Greg already have both absolute advantage, then Catherine will have no or non-absolute advantage. So that's the answer for part F. And then part G is asking, is it possible for Greg and Catherine to gain from trade? Define your answer. The answer is yes. So let me write it. So part G. The answer is yes. The reason why the answer is yes because between Greg and Catherine, there is difference in comparative advantage. There's difference in opportunity cost. Therefore, we're going to have a comparative advantage for each person. Every time you have comparative advantage, there's always gain from trade. So you can do the number by yourself. You can see how much production we have if each person specializes in one good and then trade with one another. But once you finish, you're going to realize it doesn't matter how you do it. You always have more production between the two people if they can specialize and trade compared to before with no trade. Okay, so this is the answer for number 2. Once you finish, we're going to go on to number 3.